As the sun dipped low, casting an amber glow over the sleepy town of Maplewood, the air shimmered with the scent of hot asphalt and late summer dust. Cicadas droned in the trees that lined Main Street, their rhythm like a steady heartbeat beneath the fading day. Lucas wiped a streak of grease across the thigh of his overalls and leaned against the open bay door of Harper's garage. Business had been slow all afternoon, a couple of tire rotations, an oil change for old Mr. Campbell's Buick, nothing that required the kind of attention that left him feeling alive. Then, from the far end of the street, came the low purr of a high-performance engine, out of place among the familiar rattle of pickups and the hum of family sedans. Lucas straightened, curiosity sparking. The sound was rich, controlled, and undeniably expensive. A moment later, a sleek midnight blue sports car turned the corner, gliding toward the garage like a big cat on the hunt. Even before it reached the gravel lot, a faint wisp of steam curled from beneath its hood. The car rolled to a stop with a soft hiss, the engine coughing as though it were reluctant to admit defeat. Lucas's eyes widened. He knew cars the way other men knew ball players or bourbon labels. This was no ordinary ride. The badge on the grille confirmed it. A Sinclair Phantom, rare, almost mythic. He had only ever seen one in a magazine spread, its price tag more than his annual income 3 times over. Seeing it here, in Maplewood, felt like spotting a hawk in a henhouse. The driver's door opened with a clean, expensive click. Out stepped a woman who seemed to carry her own weather system, a crispness that didn't belong to this dusty town. She wore charcoal slacks and a white blouse that had once been perfectly pressed, but now clung slightly in the evening heat. Her dark hair was drawn into a loose ponytail, a few strands escaping to frame a face that might have graced a business journal cover. Emerald green eyes swept the lot, sharp but not unfriendly, and when they settled on Lucas, he felt an unexpected jolt like the snap of a live wire. "Radiator's acting up," he called, grabbing a rag as he approached. His voice sounded steadier than he felt. "Lucky you broke down here and not out on the highway." She turned fully, meeting his gaze without a flicker of hesitation. "Yeah," she said, her voice low and even, threaded with fatigue. "It's been that kind of day." Lucas crouched by the front grill, already assessing. "Pop the hood for me. We'll see what's going on." A moment's pause. Was it reluctance or simple caution? Then she reached inside and released the latch. Steam burst upward as he lifted the hood, the warm air mixing with the smell of antifreeze. He leaned in, scanning with a practiced eye. "Coolant leak," he concluded. "You're lucky you stopped when you did. Give me a couple of hours and I can have you back on the road." She winced, arms crossing lightly. "Great," she said, the single word carrying a world of exasperation. "You got somewhere to be?" Lucas asked, glancing up. Her lips curved in a small, humorless smile. "Had a meeting. Doesn't matter now." He nodded, respecting the boundary she drew. "AC's inside," he offered, jerking his chin toward the office. "Fridge has cold drinks. Better than waiting out here." For the first time, her expression softened, as though the weight she carried shifted an inch. "Thanks," she said quietly, and headed toward the door. Lucas watched her go, the confident set of her shoulders at odds with the faint slump of someone running on empty. Inside, the window blinds tilted just enough for him to catch her silhouette as she settled into a chair. She wasn't scrolling through a phone or tapping a restless foot. She simply sat, gaze occasionally flicking to the bay where he worked, eyes thoughtful, almost curious. He lost himself in the rhythm of repair, the hiss of the pneumatic wrench, the satisfying click of a tightened bolt. The world narrowed to tools and torque, the way he liked it. Yet every so often he sensed her watching, and he felt oddly aware of his own movements, as if she were taking the measure of not just his skill, but the man behind it. An hour slipped by. The amber sky deepened into violet, and the cicada's song gave way to the distant call of night birds. When the office door finally creaked open, he looked up to see her stepping out, a can of soda in hand. The fluorescent light behind her traced a pale halo around her hair. "Are you always this dedicated?" she asked, leaning lightly against the door frame. He tightened a final bolt and straightened, wiping his hands. "Someone's got to keep these cars running," he said with a half smile. "Not many mechanics would drop everything for a stranger," she observed, her voice carrying a note of genuine admiration. Lucas shrugged, squinting against the fading sun. "Not many strangers say thank you." That earned him a small laugh, brief but real. She took a sip from the can, watching him with a steady gaze that made him feel both exposed and strangely comfortable. "You from around here?" he asked, surprising himself. "Not exactly," she said after a beat. "Passing through, business trip that turned into something else." He raised an eyebrow. "Something else?" Her shoulders lifted in a delicate half shrug. "Let's just say I'm reconsidering a few things." Lucas sensed a story there. A boardroom battle, maybe, or the kind of crossroads he'd only read about. But he didn't pry. Some silences deserved respect. The night settled deeper. Overhead, the first stars blinked awake. Lucas finished topping off the coolant and closed the hood with a gentle thud. "She's good to go," he said. "Better keep an eye on the temp gauge for the next 100 miles. She stepped closer, pulling a wallet from her small leather bag. "What do I owe you?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Consider it a welcome to Maplewood." Her brows lifted. "That's generous." "Call it even for the soda," he said, a grin tugging at his mouth. For a moment she studied him as if weighing something more than money. Finally, she slipped the wallet back. "Thank you. Lucas, was it?" He blinked. He hadn't given his name. Then he noticed the patch on his coveralls and chuckled. "Yeah, Lucas." "I'm Evelyn," she said, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, warm despite the evening cool. A quiet settled between them, comfortable and charged all at once. In the distance, the train that cut through Maplewood each night sounded its lonely whistle. Evelyn glanced toward the sound, then back at him. "Maybe I'll see this town again," she said softly. "Maybe you will," he replied. She slid into the Phantom, the engine purring back to life as if grateful for his care. With a small wave, she eased onto the darkening road, taillights fading until they were just a pair of red stars swallowed by the night. Lucas stood in the quiet lot long after the sound of her car disappeared, the scent of coolant and summer air mingling around him. Something had shifted, small, unspoken, but undeniable. And for the first time in a long while, he looked forward to whatever tomorrow might bring. A faint smile crossed her lips. "Touché." They talked lightly while Lucas tightened the last bolts, the evening settling around them in a hush of crickets and cooling metal. She said she was just passing through, her tone casual, but there was a weight behind her words that Lucas couldn't quite name. When the Sinclair finally purred with health, he stepped back and wiped his hands on a rag. "All set." She reached for her purse. "How much do I owe you?" He shook his head. "Nothing. Just a quick fix." Her brow furrowed. "Seriously, I can pay." "Pay it forward," he said with a small shrug.
She studied him as if he were a riddle. "Thank you," she said softly, then slid into the driver's seat. The Phantom eased onto the road, its taillights glowing like embers until they disappeared into the dark. Lucas stood in the gravel lot longer than he meant to, a strange, restless feeling settling in his chest. He didn't know her name. He only knew something had begun. Days later, life returned to its familiar rhythm-oil changes. carburetors, the hum of small-town routine, but her face lingered in the quiet corners of Lucas's mind, the sharp green eyes, the quiet exhaustion she tried to hide. He told himself it was a one-time meeting. Then, on a sun-bright Thursday afternoon, the low, unmistakable purr of a high-end engine cut through the air. The midnight blue Phantom glided into the lot, gleaming, flawless. She stepped out wearing jeans and a fitted jacket, casual yet still carrying an air of quiet authority. "Thought I'd stop by," she said, a playful glint in her eyes. "You did save my car." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "What? You break it again already?" She laughed, a sound as warm as July. "Maybe I just wanted an excuse." He crossed his arms, smiling. "Well, you found me." She extended her hand. Alina Vaughan. The name hit like a spark. Alina Vaughan, CEO of Vaughan Automotive, an industry powerhouse. Lucas clasped her hand, steady. "Lucas Bennett. You knew who I was, didn't you?" she asked, head tilted. "Guessed," he said. "Didn't change anything." Her smile softened. "Most people would have acted differently. I'm not most people." Elena wandered the garage, pausing to take in the scent of oil, the stacked tires, the faded posters of classic cars. "You run this place." "Nah, I just work here. Belongs to Harrison. Been here forever." "Ever think about more? Your own shop, maybe something bigger?" Lucas chuckled and rubbed the back of his neck. "You sound like my brother. Smart guy," she teased. Then she pulled a sleek envelope from her bag. "I have an offer for you." Inside was a contract, not a standard mechanic's gig, but a position as a private vehicle specialist for Vaughan Automotive. High salary, full relocation, a life far from Maplewood. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Because you're honest," she said. "I need someone who sees me, not just my title." He exhaled, the weight of the decision pressing in. "That's a lot to think about. Take your time." She handed him a business card, her fingers brushing his. "Call me." She drove away, and that night Lucas climbed onto the garage roof with the contract beside him, staring at a sky crowded with stars. Maplewood was home, but Elena's offer, her presence, felt like possibility itself.
The next morning, he dialed the number. "It's Lucas." A pause, then a smile in her voice. "Took you long enough?" He laughed. "I'm coming to Chicago. Not saying yes, but I want to see what's up." 2 days later, he stood in the gleaming glass atrium of Vaughan Automotive headquarters, jeans and worn jackets setting him apart from the polished suits. Elena waited in an office of floor-to-ceiling windows and sweeping city views. Navy suit. Poised, bright-eyed. "You came," she said, a spark of something more than business lighting her face. "Figured I owed you a talk before I say no," he teased. She smirked. "Why are you really here, Lucas?" "You could hire anyone," he said. "Why me?" She stepped closer, voice quiet but sure. "Because I'm surrounded by people who tell me what I want to hear. You didn't care who I was. You helped because it's who you are." "That's not a reason to hire me." "No," she admitted, "but it's a reason to trust you." She set a rolled blueprint on the desk and unfurled it. Not a corporate contract, plans for a custom auto shop, fully funded in his name. Your dream, she said. Classic cars, custom builds, your way. I'll back it. You run it. Lucas's breath caught. This is insane, Elena, she smiled. I believe in you. He looked at her for a long moment, something unspoken passing between them. One condition, he said finally. I work with you, not for you. Her answering grin was luminous. Deal. They shook hands, partners, equals, something more flickering beneath the surface, while the city lights burned beyond the glass, a whole new road opening ahead. The shop rose from an empty lot the way a sunrise builds from darkness, slowly at first, then all at once. Brick by brick, beam by beam, the space began to take shape. Wide bay doors, polished concrete floors, tall windows that welcomed light. Lucas worked with the quiet precision of a craftsman. Elena was there nearly every evening, not merely funding the project, but diving headlong into plans and sketches. She challenged him to dream bigger, showrooms, a lounge for clients, even a rooftop deck. Skyline views sell, she teased one night as they stood among the scaffolding, hard hats tilted back. You think people come to a garage for the view? They will if it's your garage, she replied, eyes gleaming. What started as a business partnership slid easily into companionship. Late nights over blueprints turned into takeout dinners eaten from grease-stained cartons. Her laughter threaded through the cavernous space, softening its echoing emptiness. For Lucas, who had built his life on solitary rhythms, her presence was both disorienting and magnetic. One humid evening, he climbed the half-finished stairwell to the roof, seeking quiet. From there, the city spread out like a field of stars, Maplewood's lights winking in the distance. He heard footsteps behind him. You're quiet, Elena said, settling beside him on the concrete ledge. Thinking, he admitted. About? What if I screw this up? He gestured toward the steel beams below. This shop, us, everything.
But you won't, she said. You're good at this, Lucas. You just haven't seen it yet. He turned to her, the conviction in her eyes sparking something unfamiliar, belief in himself that went deeper than pride. Why do you keep pushing me? Because you're worth it, she whispered. Their connection deepened in the spaces between words. Yet, even as affection grew, the fault lines of their different worlds began to show. Elena's life was built on control and constant forward motion boardrooms, strategy sessions, investors hungry for the next big thing. Lucas lived in the tactile present. The scent of motor oil, the satisfying click of a socket wrench, the freedom of a job finished well. The tension surfaced one evening when she arrived carrying a stack of contracts. We need to tweak the business plan, she said, spreading spreadsheets across a workbench. This could grow multiple shops, a brand. Lucas wiped his hands on a rag and set down his wrench. Elena, I just want to fix cars. Why's it got to be bigger? I'm thinking about the future, she said, brow furrowed. I'm happy now, he countered. She let out a breath. I don't know how to stop planning. He reached across the table and took her hand, grease and all. Let me show you. They left the shop in his weathered pickup, the night warm and wide. He drove until city lights gave way to a two-lane road lit only by moonlight, then pulled into a roadside diner where the vinyl seats squeaked and the fries came in paper baskets. Over burgers and milkshakes, they laughed like kids ditching responsibilities. I don't want you in my world, Lucas, she said at last. I want to be yours. Reality, of course, had its say. At Vaughan Automotive's next board meeting, Alina faced a barrage of pointed questions. Why was the CEO spending so much time on a small-town garage? Was her judgment compromised? She met the challenge with calm defiance, her voice steady and her numbers flawless. But when she arrived at the shop that night, the strain showed. "They think I'm losing focus," she said, dropping her briefcase with a thud. Lucas crossed his arms, studying her. "What do you think?" "I don't know," she admitted, rubbing her temples. "You're scared," he said quietly. "Scared of choosing this." She didn't deny it. "I can't be your secret, Alina," he added. "Figure out what you want." The next day she called him back to the shop. Sunlight streamed through the half-finished windows as she handed him a slim folder partnership agreement, 50-50 ownership. "This isn't just business," she said, eyes unwavering. "It's us." He stared at the papers, the weight of her decision sinking in. "You're sure?" "Yes," she said, and when he stepped toward her, they met halfway. The kiss sealing their choice more surely than any signature. Opening day arrived on a crisp autumn morning. Bennett's custom garage name, chosen together, gleamed like a promise. Locals crowded the lot alongside executives and reporters drawn by Elena's reputation. Kids darted between polished classics and custom builds, their laughter echoing beneath the bright new sign. Elena, in dark jeans and a leather jacket, stood shoulder to shoulder with Lucas as the ribbon was cut. "You're seen now," she teased. "It's ours," he said, pulling her close for a kiss. "Cameras be damned." Later, when the crowds thinned and the sun dipped low, Lucas found her beside a '67 Mustang they'd restored together. The chrome caught the last light of day. "I owe you a real date," he said. She laughed. "This isn't it." "Nope." He opened the driver's door with a flourish. "Let's go." "Where?" she asked, sliding behind the wheel. "Nowhere important," he replied. The Mustang roared to life, its engine a low growl of freedom. They sped into the night, leaving behind the glitter of cameras and the press of expectations, carrying with them only the shared certainty that the road ahead was theirs to choose. What did you think of Lucas and Elena's story? Drop your city or country in the comments side, love to know. If this tale of love, trust, and second chances touched you, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who could use a little hope. More stories of fate and possibility are on the way. Stay tuned.